First of all, I just want to say this is not, and I repeat, not about hating men, criticising men or saying we don't need them. It's about celebrating the power of the feminine and bringing that paradigm to improve our society. We aren't going to move society forward until we recreate the balance between the masculine and the feminine. My name is Robyn Vincent. I work for the Outdoors Group as the head teacher of the Outdoors School. So if we're going to empower ourselves as female leaders, we need to look back at where we've been and what's happened to us across history. The feminine power is not new, it's just been lost. If we go back to prehistory, 90% of the statues and images that we have show the feminine form. Maybe a little bit skewed too much that way. The Romans had separate goddesses for men and women, no more or no less powerful, just fit for purpose, suitable for what they were supposed to do. Early societies were highly sophisticated and productive, and women had great status in these societies. They were talented healers, they were warrioresses in some cases, they were rulers, they owned land. And that was how they measured their success. Success in those societies was measured by the quality of life and the survival of the community. Then society began to change and expansion became the focus. We wanted to grow territories and to grow power, and for that you need muscle and you need fear, and that leads to militarisation and individualism, or patriotism if you want to call it that. That militarisation and individualism is when we start to see the rise of big warrior god myths, or the myths of soldiers and peoples like Achilles and Hercules, that individualism and that aggression. So that is when the balance of power started to shift. Now we measure our success by GDP. GDP goes up in time of war. How is that a good measure of success of a society? So this led to the diminishing of the female roles. The females we do know of in history, like Cleopatra and Helen of Troy, they're highly sexualised and dangerous, and they lead men to their downfalls like some kind of siren. In fact, Cleopatra was a highly intelligent philosopher and mathematician. We come forward to 1921 and we look at women's football. They were drawing crowds of 53,000 for the women's game in 1921. Then it was banned, and that ban was put in place because it was deemed not suitable for women. It wasn't lifted till 1971. Science told us that our brains were smaller, that our reproductive organs made us prone to hysteria and not suitable for the workplace. That is a long way from the celebration and loyalty and respect for someone like Boudica. As women's place in society began to be eroded, society changed. It changed because it became focused on power, on muscle, on expansion, on domination, on growth. Not about the quality of life and not about the survival of the community. The theory is that there are 4 ways in which we are all influenced. The first is culture, and our culture is very male-based. It's based on winning, on competition, on individualism and muscle and power. And my generation was definitely influenced by that masculinity. Crying is a really good example. In fact, crying is a physiological or biological response to extreme pain or emotion in the body. It's a release of that emotion which is healthy for the body. If we're comfortable in the male paradigm, we might go to aggression for that. How many times have you wanted to punch a pillow? And if we're in the feminine, we might cry. Both of those efforts achieve the same outcome. The stress is released from the body. Yet somehow, crying is seen as an example of weakness. When I sat down to think about who were the female role models that I had in my life, I tried to think of female leaders. And actually the only one I could come up with was Margaret Thatcher. Lover or hater, she accessed the masculine better than most men, but was criticised for it. All those words came out. She was bossy, she was a bitch, she was arrogant, she was aggressive. All the things that a man would be prized for. What sums her up, I think, for me, the way that she worked in the masculine, was a quote from the film The Iron Lady. When she was asked about the Falklands, she responded with, "Why do people insist on asking me how I felt? One does what has to be done. How one feels about it is irrelevant. And there's some very well-known research that measures the masculinity and individualism of countries by a man called Hofstadter. Japan is the highest, and if we think about that culture, based on that individualism, based on winning, based on competition, we can understand that. The UK has some very high figures as that as well. So again, we're focused on competition and winning and individualism and expansion and growth and economic domination. It's no surprise that the lowest scores for masculinity and individuality come from the Scandinavian countries, where levels of mental health and physical health are much better than they are in this country. And again, no surprise that they're the birthplace of the forest school ethos. They also gave the vote to women before any other country. The second influence on us is the workplace. And again, I feel as though my generation was very much masculinised by that. In order to have a seat at the table, we had to operate in the masculine. I spent most of my career being told I wasn't enough of a Rottweiler to be a head teacher. I nearly gave up because firstly, I knew I wasn't cut out to be a Rottweiler. Secondly, as I got older, I decided I didn't want to be a Rottweiler. I actually see myself more as a Labrador. Third is your family. This has a huge influence on how you value yourself and where you see value in society. So my dad was happiest when he was being told how clever I was or how pretty and polite and ladylike I was. So what little girl doesn't want her daddy's approval? And I thought that's what I had to do, so I did it. I worked hard at school, I got good grades, I tried never to lose my temper or do anything that was considered unladylike, and I always tried to make sure that I looked nice, because it got me my daddy's approval. So the influence that has on me is that it makes me think that the only way to be of value in society is to project those things, and the only way to value myself is to project those things. Finally, we all have individual moments that had a huge influence on us. So I remember being quite young and needing some help laying some lino in our new house. And there was a male member of the family who was really good at this, but I was told that if I wanted him to help me, I would have to manage my request. I would need to flatter him that he was the only one that could help me. I would need to point out that I couldn't possibly manage it by myself. Did I really have to bat my eyelashes and play weak in order to be able to get some help laying some lino? No, but I know that now. Then I thought I was genuinely using the only power I had at my disposal as a woman. The really sad part of that story is that the advice was given to me by another woman. Why do we do that to each other? So having looked at where we've been, let's have a look at where we are now. And actually, women are now experiencing more and better opportunities than we have ever had before. In business, in politics, in leadership in general. Business gets it. Big businesses understand that having females in leadership positions is good for staff, it's good for profit, it's good for stakeholders. In the last financial crisis in 2008, the people stepping up to become self-employed were women. 80% of the new businesses in 2008 were set up by women. Economists will talk about the big drivers in the global economy. It's not China, it's not America, it's women, the so-called tigress economy. 80% of buying decisions around the globe are made by women. So it would seem that our fight for equality is finally bearing fruit. So if we compare ourselves to 40 years ago, women are 30% more likely to suffer from mental health issues. We're twice as likely to suffer from burnout. And those figures are against 40 years ago, but also against our male counterparts now. We're 40% more likely to suffer from breast cancer and serious illness. And we are less happy than we were 40 years ago. Again, in general and in comparison to our male counterparts. So, in my opinion, I think that we have had to behave in the masculine to get us where we are now. But it's costing too much and it's not changing society. We have to change the rules of the game. And if enough of us change the way we play the game, then the game itself will change. Business as usual is no longer serving us. and society must move forward. And according to the Dalai Lama, it is Western women that will save civilization. There is a note of caution. Every superhero has its own specific nemesis, and the female paradigm is no different. When we're not being our best selves, when we're being accidental rather than intentional, they're there lurking, waiting to draw us away from our purpose and to stop us getting the best out of ourselves and everyone else. So please beware of the four horsewomen of the feminine apocalypse. Beware Superwoman. She represents all that is draining about the masculine. She must do everything herself, do it better than everyone else, and have way more things to do than anybody else. She has no boundaries and cannot say no. She truly believes that this is what she must do in order to be of value and to value herself. She is the result of cultural and historical echoes. She leads us into burnout, away from joy, and we are no use to anyone. Her fellow horsewoman is the bitch. She is also the cultural echo of the masculine. She represents the spirit of individualism and competition and how women have been perceived when they use the masculine. She puts others down, does not collaborate, and in the end leads us into burnout or loss of authenticity and purpose. The whole does not do well when led by her. There is no joy for anyone. Behind her is the martyr. She feels the weight of the world upon her shoulders. She too must do everything because she does it better than anyone else. She puts others down and prevents them getting on board with the purpose because she cannot delegate or trust in herself or others. She will not allow others to use their tools to help her, but complains that she gets no help. She leads us away from collaboration and into burnout, bitterness and loss of purpose and joy. Finally comes the victim, possibly the most debilitating of them all. She believes that things will always go wrong for her. She does not deserve any joy or a place at the leadership table. She leads us to step away from the purpose, to choose not to participate and to allow the negative aspects of the masculine to prevail. As a result, nothing changes. So I've been talking about the female and the male paradigm, and what on earth do I mean by that? But the most important thing to note is that we need both. We need a balance between the masculine and the feminine. If we think about the power of nature, nature works in the masculine and in the feminine. So if you think of water, think of the monsoon season or a tidal wave. In its masculine, water builds up pressure and sweeps everything before it. It's impossible to stand up to a water cannon. If you think about heat, in its masculine, it's the raging fire that gets rid of all the old growth and makes room for the new growth. Water in its feminine can erode the hardest rocks, seep over, under, round a barrier to get where it wants to go. Heat in its feminine is the gentle warmth that nurtures the new growth. So we need both of those things. So the masculine paradigm focuses on winning, on competition, on muscle power and expansion. It requires an unshakable faith in oneself, or at least the appearance of it. The masculine has laser focus. It focuses on one thing at a time. It builds a tower. If I can just get my customer base broader, if I can just raise my profits by 20%, if I can just cut costs by 10%, we'll focus on that one thing. The problem with building a tower isn't always most efficient because there's usually room for only one person at the top of the tower and it's a very long way to fall. The feminine relies on collaboration, on empathy, on connection and on sustainability, not exhaustion. It builds a platform and it works on all the legs of the platform simultaneously. The legs of the platform are our vitality, our wealth, our vocation and love. But the most important pillar is network. The network is what is different about the female paradigm. When we build a platform, there's more room on the top of the platform and lots of people can stand there. It's a safe place to work towards your purpose. If one of the legs wobbles, the rest of the platform will hold it up. Network in the centre of our platform is what holds us up. The feminine paradigm has soft power. That's not an oxymoron because power just means to be able. If we go back to water, in its feminine, it's able to reach its journey, to reach its destination, to achieve its purpose by gently eroding, seeping over, under, or through, achieving its purpose through soft power. And that's the essence of the female paradigm. So all that yapping is all very well, but what are we actually going to do about it? We need to find our purpose. I truly believe that every single one of us, male, female, working in the masculine, working in the feminine, doesn't matter. We were each put here to make a difference, to impact on our world, to make it better. Decide what your purpose is and work towards that. What impact do you want to have on your world? Build your platform, and that's a safe place from which to prioritise that impact. It's a place to stand, to harness your natural talents and move towards that impact on our world. If we're going to do that, we're going to have to reclaim our own toolbox. We have empathy, strength, nurturing, warmth, collaboration, all those things in our toolbox, but we often don't use them. We hide them, we don't value them, we apologise for them. Let's talk about our cycle, for example. It means that our energies ebb and flow, as nature ebbs and flows. It's a biological reality, and the reason for it is to ensure the continuity of the species. Why would we fight something as powerful as that? Harness it, use it, arrange your tasks so that you're doing them at the times that suits your ebb and flow of your energies. Why wouldn't we do that? The language that we use, man up, just teaches young men that what's to be valued and how they can be valued is to demonstrate that masculine paradigm all the time. Saying you're crying like a girl just denigrates the feminine. Why are we continuing to use language like this? We all have superpowers. If you've got superpowers, why aren't you using them? We don't see the Hulk trying to use Thor's hammer. It doesn't work. It wouldn't be very effective and it would be a complete waste of time. Superman can fly, so why spend time trying to spin webs like Spider-Man and swing from building to building when he can just fly? How inefficient and what a total waste of effort. When I need your tools to help me, I will ask. Not only is it disrespectful to use other people's tools, but it's actually inefficient. So if I need something that's not in my toolbox and you have it, I will ask you to wield your tools on my behalf. I'll get out of your way while you do it, and then I will thank you when the common purpose has been achieved. My tools work best in my hands only. If we have a voice, and we do, then we should use it. My current role model is Jane Fonda. She uses her celebrity status and her voice and her network to challenge the establishment all the time. She has something called Civil Disobedience Fridays, where her and her friends run marches or sit-ins and things like that. She gets arrested on a regular basis because she's using her voice. So we must use our own toolbox. We must use our own superpowers and value them. If we hide them, apologise for them, think of them as second-rate, society won't value them and nothing will change. So one way of talking about the soft powers that we have is to give them names. It makes them concrete. This is not a truth, it's just a way of talking about them. And I need to credit Dr. Jo Martin and the One of Many community here. But in our toolbox we have our queen. She understands her realm. She knows who's in her realm. She understands what has to be achieved, and she has the backing of the realm to achieve that. She commands loyalty and respect because she knows she's entitled to it. We have our mother. This is not just about giving birth to children. It's about giving birth to ideas. It's about nurturing others' ideas. It's about nurturing people to grow. It's also about defending those things. We have our lover. And she gets great joy from the sensuous and sensual. She understands that self-care is vital to that central pillar of our platform. She gets the best out of collaboration. We have a warrioress in there. I'm not very comfortable with my warrioress, but she's there. Threaten one of my children or my staff and you'll see her. The warrioress is vital to protecting the realm, but she's not interested in expanding territory or taking from others. Then we have our sorceress, probably the most forgotten of our tools, and I think the one that frightens people most. I often think, oh, it's a bit hippy-dippy, but the sorceress for me represents my intuition, my connection to source, to nature, to universe, however you want to see it. But for me, it's my intuition. And there's a quote that I really love. It says, when she shifted from competition to collaboration, all the women around her became radiant stars in the dark blue sky, each one striking and rising without trying to outshine. She and women doesn't really need to be in that quote because it's true of the whole of society. So, we need to decide on our purpose. Decide on your purpose. Decide on the impact or the change that you want to achieve, and then share it, because I can't use my tools to help you if I don't know what the task is. So polish off your tools, be proud of them, put them in a treasure chest. Hell, put them in a pink sparkly handbag if you want, but value them. And then let's support each other, take off our hard hats. Let's adjust our crowns and get our queen up.